This episode is brought to you by FX's feud, Capote versus the Swans. Inspired by actual events, the series tells the story of Truman Capote and the women he betrayed. The original housewives. They were society's most elite women. Rich, glamorous socialites who defined a bygone era of high society New York. From creator Ryan Murphy, this drama series features an all-star cast, including Naomi Watts, Demi Moore, and Diane Lane. FX's feud premieres January 31st on FX Stream on Hulu.
It really is no small matter. Hey, I'm Kelly Wilkness, here with Anita Joyce, and this is Decorating Tips and Tricks, episode 469, Must-Have Designer Details. We are going to give you such great tips today to really get that designer look, and it's not going to cost you a lot of money. I have something kind of exciting for our listeners to listen to another podcast. It's the HGTV Obsessed podcast, and even if you're not obsessed with HGTV, they interviewed me, so Yay! I think you might enjoy it. It was a lot of fun, and I love the host. They have a new host. The podcast hasn't been around that long, but they already have a new host, and she is a longtime member of the HGTV community, Marianne Canada, so some of you might know her. She was delightful. I have to say, Anita, she's trying to be my new BFF, so you might want to give a listen and see what's going on there.
Am I going to have to break it up?
You might have to. Marianne and I had a great time, and I think you really enjoy the interview. It starts out with her chatting with another HGTV show host and whatnot, so stick with it. I'm coming sort of mid-show, but we talk for quite some time, and I think you might really enjoy it. We'll put the link to that show in the show notes as well.
Yay! So excited that you're on that podcast.
Yeah, it's the budget-friendly episode. I don't think they have numbers on there, but it's the May 6th episode, and the budget-friendly, I forget, it's got a longer title, but you guys will find it.
Oh, yeah, and budget-friendly, that's our thing, so that was a good one for you to be on. Okay, Let's talk about details.
Yes. Well, I've been chatting away. You start.
Okay, well, before we get into the specific details, I wanted to kind of define what we're talking about a detail. Because typically, you think of it, a detail as being some small thing, but they're not necessarily a small thing. So really what we're talking about is when you walk into a room and you're thinking, it's so beautiful, but it's not the things that you notice first. They're not the big piece. It's not the armoire. It's not the fireplace. It's not the focal point. It's the stuff that really makes the room that you notice when you've been in the room for maybe 5 to 10 minutes to maybe even an hour later. As your eye goes around the room and you pick up these little things or the details, that's when you say, that's what made this room so beautiful and so memorable.
Yes, well put. And, there is a saying, the design is in the details. And I think there's probably two camps of people. I mean, there might be people that think the design is not necessarily in the details. Maybe they think it's the focal point. Maybe they think it's the architecture. But I truly do believe if I had to pick one and choose a camp, I would choose the camp of detail. What do you think?
Well, yes, because I think that's where that's a separation of someone who is a fanatic about decorating versus someone who just wants their house to look okay. Mm-hmm. Because, there's some people there's good enough, and then there's better. And the good enough is you skip all the details. But the better or the best is when you pay attention to these little things. They just kind of amp up the design of your room.
Yes, I think the details create the atmosphere. And as you were alluding to when you were sort of trying to define for everybody what we were talking about today, is that the atmosphere is not something you might necessarily be able to put your finger on right away, after an hour, or maybe never. Maybe it's just a feeling. Maybe it's all those small things coming together. And if you're really into design and decorating, you might be able to pull out those individual elements that, it's the way that vignette was created. It's, the way the curtain drapes, or, whatever the small details are. You might be able to visualize them, name them, and all of that. But maybe another person who's not so into decorating, not so into design, they might never even be able to discern exactly what it is, but all of these small things come together to create this atmosphere. And I think that's where it is. That's where the magic is.
Mm-hmm. And so to better explain what we're talking about also, I kind of alluded to it. It's usually a small thing, but not always. So, for example, one thing that might not be a small thing would be some trim, some beautiful trim in your room. And so there might be a lot of this trim when you add up all the square footage of the trim in your room. But when you're just looking in one direction, it's just kind of may not see much of it. But that's the sort of thing you just walk in and go, man, this room is just beautiful. After you've been in the room for a while and you notice the detail of the trim and the moldings, that's when you say, oh, that must be what it is. That's what's so beautiful about the room.
Yeah, I totally agree. And interestingly enough, you're saying trim. One of the first specifics on my list is you can add a picture rail. Now, people have chair rails. That was very popular for a period of time where you had the trail running around the dining room or something like that. And that was the time when people were doing maybe different color paints or a wallpaper and a paint or beadboard on the bottom, something like that. But think about a picture rail. Now, that is up high, obviously. Oftentimes in an older home or historic home where they actually used to hang the pictures from it. So you didn't make the holes in the wall. There was, sort of a little bracket and maybe it was hung on a cord or something like that. But you can add a picture rail, which would be technically called a picture rail because it's up or high or off your ceiling. Maybe 18, 24 inches off your ceiling, depending on the ceiling height. And you can do something different up there. It could be simply just some beautiful molding that creates the picture rail, or you could paint the top part a different color. Wallpaper, or even the removable kind, or that wonderful pasted paper that we learned about from Julie Campbell when she spoke with me on the podcast. You could do something different above it, and that would be a detail that could transform the room completely. Bring your eye up and really just add some personality to what might otherwise be just a square or a rectangle room.
Oh, I think that's a great idea, Kelly. And I'm going to go even smaller for my next suggestion, and that is I'm thinking about not your shower curtain, but do pay attention to your shower curtain, but I'm thinking about those little hooks that hold the shower curtain on the rod.
Oh, that is tiny and wonderful when you do it right.
Well, but what a great way to add some detail. These days you can get whatever you want, so I don't go too over the top, weird. But, add something with a little bit of interest to it. And I think that'd just be a fun detail. And that's kind of one of those happy surprises that people maybe don't notice till they've been in that bathroom the fifth time, after a lot of lemonade drinking. And they're like, oh, look at those. Aren't those pretty?
Yeah. And you just don't have to buy the packet of 12 plastic ones that snap together. No, you don't. So, yes, so interesting. You could definitely find something really cool. Okay, let me see. I don't know if I can get any smaller than that. How about having a good grouping of little small bud vases on hand? You can put them all around the house. So if you have them and they're easy to get to, you don't tuck them way back in a cabinet or something like that. You have them somewhere on a shelf where you can get to them, and then you'll fill them up. And you'll put them in little places. You'll tuck them in on a vanity. You'll put maybe something on your nightstand. And just to make it easy. So easy to add these little details. And especially when you're talking about fresh flowers or cutting some greens from your garden or even just, gosh, you could cut anything. You could cut something from a tree. You could have one leaf in it, a big pretty leaf in the fall, and just tuck it in one of these little vases and put them all around your house and make that a habit. Kind of just like when you're doing your vignettes or whatnot, every once in a while, put them all around, and then when things need to be refreshed, clean them out and do it again.
Great idea. And now this is something that might not be that small, but it's a kind of detail that I think is often overlooked, and that is in your closet. I think we just kind of throw things in and don't think about it, but what would it be like if when you opened your closet, all the boxes, all the bins, all matched, and they all looked the same? Wouldn't that be a beautiful detail, kind of hidden, kind of a nice surprise if somebody looks in there, but just for you even? to have that nice detail where it just looks so organized and so pretty.
I do think about that. And I was there. I did my closet over for a blog post. I don't know, maybe, I don't know, well, it had to be well over years before the pandemic started. And I was almost all the way there. And then I brought in a basket that didn't match. And then all of a sudden, my daughter had some extra hangers that she wasn't using anymore. I was like, do I really need to buy hangers to match my hangers? Let me just use her hangers. And so now I have some hangers in there that don't match, and it really bugs me. So you're right. I am going to do that because that's so easy, and it's a private thing. And you can, but hey, you know what? That's who you should be pleasing most in your house, yourself and your family. So when you open your closet and you can see all of that, and it's easy to get to your stuff and it looks beautiful while you're in there, that's the way to go.
Well, and that just simplifies your life and decreases the stress level. When I open a closet and I can immediately find things and it looks pretty in there, I just kind of can, exhale nicely. But when I walk in and I can't find everything and it's a big jumbled mess, it just stresses me out. So anyway, so that's a nice de-stressing detail. And so here's another thing that we talk about a lot, but it's easy to forget, and that is the handles on your doors and the pulls on your cabinetry, in your kitchen, in your bathroom, anywhere you have, and maybe even on a piece of furniture. That's something that can really add so much beauty to a room, especially when we're talking about a doorknob, because that's in every room. And those pulls in your kitchen, you're going to get quite a few of those, so it's going to make a big difference if you change those out.
That's on my list too. Really easy to change out, especially if you're going from knob to knob. I'm working with a client now, and she's just at the point where her kitchen cabinets are going to be painted, and we're making these kinds of smaller decisions. She brought me in to help her do this sort of thing. And so I'm really thinking about cabinetry hardware a lot these days because she's got a lot of cabinets, and it will date a piece of furniture or a kitchen if the hardware is wrong. Now, obviously, she's having a new kitchen. We're going to pick something that it's going to be beautiful, but we also want to pick something that's going to be classic, that's going to stand the test of time. So if you look around your house, whether it be in your kitchen or on a bathroom vanity or a freestanding piece of furniture, and you look at the hardware and you're like, wow, I can really, in that not a good way, that is dated hardware. It's not vintage, it's not antique, it's just not looking good. And often that's time when it's kind of a lower quality. Like, maybe you bought the piece and it was pretty inexpensive. I mean, look at the beautiful things people do to IKEA furniture that might just come with some plain knobs, or sometimes something comes with the wooden knob that's just kind of boring. Wow. Especially if you just have to get a couple, you can get something spectacular. And there's so many different choices and so many different price points. So look around. You can probably find something you love in a very reasonable price point.
Yes, and just kind of a thing that's similar to that are some hooks on the walls, maybe to hang your coat. I have some that I got from Anthropology years ago, and they're little Scotty dogs, brass Scotty dogs. They are still my favorite one of the favorite details I have in the whole house. And, it's just such a small item. But when you go there to grab a rope from that hook, I mean, you cannot not notice. Those are so cute. And I got some beautiful ones recently at IKEA, which is for coat hooks. They're brass looking, probably not real brass, but there's three parts that kind of swing out. I mean, and you could really hang a lot of things on there, and they're just really beautiful. So it's amazing how practical and beautiful those can be.
Yeah, and those little surprises, that's so much about what happens with the details. Is, that you grab a coat or a robe or something off the hook, and there's a little Scotty dog. How cute. That it's just a little, sometimes the details can have a little whimsy to them, which is so fun too. Sometimes, design can be very serious, especially if you're designing in, maybe more traditional or using a lot of antiques or something. It seems very formal. So this is also a way to add a little whimsy in these little tiny doses here and there around your house. Now, here's something that you can't really see necessarily. The scent. So maybe you pick a candle and it kind of is your signature scent. You don't have to have a signature scent for a lifetime. Don't, really belabor the decision because you can always change your mind. But at one time, maybe you have 3 or 4 of the same candles and they're burning. And maybe it's something that evokes the season or a feeling that you're trying to evoke, something cozy or freshness or, summer flowers or something like that. And instead of having one candle and you're scenting one room, put them in a couple of different rooms. Please don't burn your candles and leave the house, but have them on when you're there and you can sort of keep an eye. But I think that's such a nice idea to have this sort of signature scent because especially if you're having people over, that really sets the tone and adds a lot to the atmosphere that we're talking about. So it's a sensory detail that, is not even aside from it coming from a candle, or it could also come from, some of those sticks, or it could come from, a diffuser, some source of scent that's consistent in your house.
Oh, yes. I just love a beautiful scent in a room. So I think that's a great idea. Another thing that you can add is a tassel to a key in an antique dresser or armoire. I love having a beautiful tassel on a key, but maybe you have a piece of furniture that is not an antique, that doesn't use a key. You can still put one on a handle or a pull.
Putting some interesting little doodad in somewhat of an unexpected place, maybe. How about hanging a small painting from a bookshelf, from the outer part of the bookshelf? I'm sure you've seen this done in magazines and whatnot, but maybe you never thought about doing it at home. It takes a certain type of bookcase to really work, but if you've got some built-ins and you've got maybe just books on one shelf, you could hang the painting, or it could even be a piece of some photography or something like that framed right in front of those books. You kind of don't want to hang it in front of a shelf that might have a lot of other items on it. That might seem a little confusing. But if the backdrop is just a shelf of books, I think that's a perfect place to try this out. I've also done something that I really love, and I just saw somebody else doing it on Instagram. I won't mention who, but I don't know if maybe they were copying me, but that's fabulous. Copy away. But I have hung 2 paintings that are framed in the exact same way from the window sashes in my living room, on the window. They're in front of the glass. And at first I thought, well, that's sort of weird, but I don't really have a lot of wall space over on that side of the house. There's a slim part of the wall, 2 very large windows, almost floor to ceiling, and then the fireplace kind of starts. And I wanted something over there. And so I tried it. And, there's nothing to trying it because you don't have to make a hole in anything. So I tied some twine on the back of the painting and I looped it around the sash and I hung them at the same height because there's 2 windows. So I did 2 paintings and I love it. And at that time, I didn't have anything growing outside of that window. We were waiting for the things to get bigger. And so it blocked my neighbor a little bit, It's
well,
great.
That's always good.
It's always good, right? They don't walk on that side of their house anyway, but I love it. And it just added something, even though you think, oh, I wouldn't want to block a window. These windows are so big. So think about other places that maybe you can hang some art that just might be really interesting. Even though the art itself is beautiful and interesting, if you hang it or place it in an unexpected place, it really does a lot. So that creates this detailing that we're talking about. Or even putting a piece of art on a little easel. You can find those anywhere. In fact, I had these really darling bamboo ones, and I used it. I was helping my friend stage her house, and she loved it so much. I was like, well, I have 2. I'll give you one. And then I drove home, and I was like, oh, my gosh, I hope I do have 2 because now I gave it away. But I did have 2, and I'm using it now in the bookcase that I have. And I didn't put a piece of art on it. I displayed a book, a vintage book that just has a beautiful cover, and sat it right on this little easel. So it's a very small easel, not a giant easel that a painter would use.
Well, what a great detail, and I love beautiful vintage books. So what a great way to display it like it's artwork. I think that's fantastic. So let's talk about lamps. Change out the lamp shade for something more modern and contemporary. Go to a simple drum shade, and you can change out that finial on top to something maybe a little more interesting. So that's 2 ways that you can dress up your lamps pretty easily.
Hey, we'll be right back with the rest of the show, but keep listening so we can continue bringing you DTT. BritBox just keeps getting better. The new Archie is amazing. And it's not the comics. It's about Cary Grant. Archie is the brand new limited series starring Jason Isaacs as Archie Leach, the man who became Cary Grant. From the award-winning screenwriter of Philomena, Archie tells Grant's born in Britain, made in Hollywood story, the dramatic grit to glamour transformation that led him to become one of the most famous people in the world. You are going to absolutely love the acting, but also the styling, the outfits, the scenery. It's the first time his story has been told in collaboration with his daughter Jennifer Grant and ex-wife Diane Cannon. The performances from Jason Isaacs and the rest of the cast are amazing, and it's only available on BritBox. So sign up for BritBox today to stream Archie and other fan favorites from any device. And we have a special limited time offer for our U.S. and Canadian listeners. Get 50% off, yes, that's 50% off your first month when you sign up for a monthly plan. But only if you go to BritBox.com and use our promotion code DTT at checkout. You're going to love Archie. So head over right now and get 50% off your first month of BritBox. Use the promotion code DTT at BritBox.com. Green Chef is a delicious delight any time of year, but especially during the holidays. What a wonderful vision to behold as the Green Chef boxes on your doorstep. Green Chef is the #1 meal kit for eating well. And it makes eating well so easy with plans to fit every lifestyle, whether you're keto, paleo, vegan, vegetarian, gluten-free, or just looking to eat a more balanced diet. So let Green Chef take the work out of eating clean this holiday season. And if you've got guests coming, shop Green Bundles. They're now available at the Green Market. It's your one-stop shop for nutritious grab-and-go breakfast, including vegan options, brunch kits, wholesome lunches, ready-to-eat snacks, veggie sides, and more. You can feel your best this December and do your best with Green Chef because they offset 100% of the delivery emissions as well as 100% of the plastic in every box. Go to greenchef.com/60DTT and use the code 60DTT and get 60% off plus 20% off your next 2 months. greenchef.com/60DTT and use the code 60DTT to get 60% off plus 20% off your next 2 months. Okay, so let's get back to these details. Oh my gosh, there's just so many wonderful things to suggest to everyone today. And I love all the things you're coming up with. I mean, you guys all know that we do not review what the other person is going to say. So,
No.
So sometimes
I think that's
like,
quite obvious.
I have that too, but so many times we don't, which is I just think so interesting because we come to the same topic. We know what we're going to talk about, but we don't know exactly what the other person's going to say. And so it's just so interesting to see how we interpret it. You know, we hope it's interesting to you. It's interesting to us.
Well, right. I mean, because I always wonder, what's going to come out of Kelly's mouth on this topic?
Yeah, I bet you do wonder sometimes.
Sometimes. Okay. I've got one that I really love. This one. I really need to do this. And that is to line the back of bookshelves with wallpaper or paint them a contrasting color. I just love this idea. And I know we both collect white ironstone. So I think it would be so wonderful to have the back of a bookcase painted a contrasting color with those white dishes in front. Wouldn't that be so beautiful?
Yes, it's such a great idea. And you need to do it. We've been talking about this, and then you need to show us. I saw something recently. I'm trying to remember what. It was in a magazine, and they had, it looked like almost like one of those old-time china cabinets that were built into the corners. Have you ever seen a house that had those?
Oh,
my
yes.
My grandma's house had that. So they painted the outside semi-gloss like jet black, and the inside they did pink. Oh. And it was a recent magazine. Maybe somebody else has seen this too, and you can email us and let us know what magazine it was. And then inside, you know that Yeah, I'm sure you know the dishes that are cabbageware. They're like
yes.
looks like cabbage leaves. So they had a collection of cabbageware, which of course everybody should have, right?
Oh, I actually have a set myself.
I don't
course
doubt
you
that
know
you
that.
do. But they're cabbageware, which kind of is. It'll have some white in it too, because it's giving you the feel of the cabbage, and it really. So it was pink and white cabbageware inside this cabinet was spectacular.
I have green. I have purple cabbageware. I don't have pink.
Of course you do.
Well,
How about some salvage? So this can be anything. This can be a little piece of woodwork. Sometimes you'll see a corbel or something like that. Maybe it's off the house you bought or the house that you grew up in, or maybe you find it at an antique store, or maybe you find it in a junkyard. Just look for salvage. And it can just be a small little thing. Like I have a giant bucket of the tops of the metal fence that the gentleman who lived here prior to us was going to put all around the house. And if you know anything about my house and you've seen it, I've only used a little portion of that because I thought it was going to make the house look like the Munsters lived here with this metal fence all around. But I saved all the tops, which almost look like little, maybe like arrowheads. And
oh, right.
Some of them are bigger and some of them are smaller. So the bigger ones, I'll just put, like on the top of a stack of books or something like that. Every once in a while, I'll use one of them someplace. It's just so interesting.
Wait a minute. Are you talking about like the kind of fence I have around my front yard?
No. But
are you saying we are the Munsters?
No. Yours is not like that. But you picture or maybe it was the Addams Family where Morticia would be out clipping the roses, and they had that like kind of spooky fence. Yeah, it would have been too spooky, I think, around a Victorian if I had.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
But a piece of salvage is fantastic. It speaks to some history, and if it's the history of your own house, terrific. But hey, you can just adopt somebody else's history and just add it into a bookshelf, put it on your mantle, integrate it into a vignette. It's a really wonderful statement, and one of these little details that we're really honing in on today.
Right. And another thing, we talk all the time about adding a mirror to your room. There's so much good that happens. If you have young daughters, they will love looking at themselves. If you don't, it still reflects the light in the room. I mean, it's just, there's so much good about having a mirror in a room. But if you go to a big box store, they kind of all look the same. And there's a lot of very boring, just boring, I'm going to use that word, mirrors out there. And so what I would suggest is rather than choosing one of these boring mirrors, add some detail to your room and go find an antique mirror. Go to a thrift store or an antique store or some kind of quirky store and buy something extremely unique. Maybe it's not square. Maybe it's oval. Maybe it's some other kind of fun shape. Maybe it's a Louis Philippe. I mean, just something with a little more pop to it. And that's going to add some wonderful detail to your room.
I like that idea. And what's an interesting type of mirror to add is the convex. So,
yes.
If you have young girls, they might not be so interested, more like a funhouse mirror, but that's the kind that sort of, bubbles out and it bounces the light around in a lot of different ways. And often those are on the smaller side. Mm-hmm. So you could sort of tuck that in anywhere.
Oh yeah. No, those, and there's some beautiful little mirrors that really are just kind of meant to be decorative that really don't do much in the room. They're just kind of some pretty trim work.
Right.
Which is kind of what you're talking about. Those are just really cool.
Yeah. And then bringing in some nature. Now, of course, plants. We've talked about that. I started off by talking about bringing some greenery and the vases and whatnot. Think beyond that. Feathers, starfish, stones, geodes, anything like that. A bowl of acorns could do it. Something from nature. And, if it's an acorn, it's definitely very small. But if you have a bunch of acorns together, that really creates something that evokes a mood that adds to the atmosphere. Remember those feathers I got at Round Top? Those black feathers?
Yes.
So I don't know. I bought a fistful of black feathers. I was just like, I have to have these feathers. And I have used them over and over again, even if it's just one feather. Yeah. Or I'll put them all together in one of the trophies that I have. And it just looks great. And black is one of the colors that I use, but, so it can kind of work in at any time, but it's spectacular around Halloween, but they don't scream Halloween, but they're kind of a little spooky. Maybe, at that time of year, you think they're from a raven or something like that. So they work for that. I have this bag of starfish, dried starfish that I, collected over the years. And I'll put those out on a tray, or I'll put, again, one on a top. It's great to put something on a top of a stack of little books because it really, especially if it's one small little item, because it really showcases it. Or you put starfish in a clear glass vase or cylinder, or maybe under a cloche or something like that. It really can showcase it and raise that little detail up where it really gets noticed.
Yes. And then another thing I was thinking about are all the little things that you have in your house that you could use something simple for this item or something much more pretty. So like, for example, something to put your soap in, a bar of soap. Why not use a beautiful china saucer rather than plastic thing that's meant to hold your soap? Why not add something beautiful there? Or maybe the place that you put your rings. Why not add a beautiful little plate or, again, saucer or cup to put your rings in? I'm even thinking about in your kitchen where you've got your wooden utensils. Why not put them in a beautiful silver water pitcher or a white ironstone pitcher? There's so many beautiful things that you can buy to put those in. There's just no need to put it in something boring and ugly.
Well said. That's so true. How about investing in a stack of design books? If you're listening to this show, you love design, you love decorating, treat yourself to three that you love. And definitely pay attention to the spines. So you have to love them, and the spines have to work with your color palette, okay? I am that shallow. It's just, now you all know it. But a stack of design books goes a long way and adds a lot of detail. It's very interesting to see any kind of book in someone's house, and you kind of can like suss out what they might be a little bit about, or what they're interested in by looking at the books they're reading. Well, I think design books sort of do the same thing. So I have this great stack that I love in my living room. I love the books themselves. I use them. I've read them all cover to cover. I've really enjoyed them, and I go back and look at them again and again, but they do really go with my look too. So I have Soulful Home by Tara Shaw, Invincible by Norma Kamali, and the Aaron Gates book, which I'm forgetting the name of that, but it's fantastic. I think it's something style. But we'll put the link to all of those in the show notes. Stacked. And they are incremental in size, which is great. The spines look great with my color palette, and I love them. And you'll use them. You'll have them on the coffee table. Maybe you'll move them to a bookshelf. So it's well worth the investing. Might be all three of them, maybe $100, something like that. Well worth it.
Ooh, great idea. And this is my last idea for today. And that is, I'm thinking about your tissue box, which I don't really think of that as being decorative.
Just let you know, we think about you so much. We even think about your tissue box.
Well, yes, because it's a missed opportunity if you're using just the cardboard box that they come in, because you could take those out and put them in a beautiful gold Florentine tissue box, one of those vintage ones. We love those. Or even buy a monogrammed cotton or linen cover to put over it that has your monogram on it. There's so many beautiful covers. It's just a shame to not use one of them.
That's great. Yes, and that is a little detail that we will end on for today. Now, tell me your crush. Go ahead, clean out your closet, then head straight to Quince. I love every item Quince offers, from wardrobe to decor, and I can really recommend their Ultra Stretch Super Wide Leg Pant at $49.90. The price is unbeatable, and the look is so flattering. It keeps you in on top and flares out of the bottom. Everything feels right with Quince. The price, the quality, and the sustainability. Quince offers a range of luxury wardrobe and home goods at prices within reach. And like Quince's clothing, their home goods are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands. Quince only works with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices, along with premium fabrics and finishes. Once you've cleaned out your closet and refreshed with Quince, you can also add something to your home decor. So give your wardrobe and your home the refresh it needs with Quince. Go to quince.com/DTT to get free shipping and 365-day returns on your next order. That's Quince, QUINCE.com/DTT for free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/DTT. And let me know how you love those pants. Pesto pork chops over Parmesan polenta. Not that easy to say, but oh so easy to make with Green Chef. Green Chef is the #1 meal kit company for eating well, and we have such a great deal for you. You're going to save $250. Listen on for the details on that. Green Chef makes eating well easy for any lifestyle, whether you're keto, paleo, vegan, vegetarian, gluten-free, or just looking to eat more balanced meals. You know, we're getting into the busy holiday season, so it's a perfect time to have Green Chef help you out. Let Green Chef take the work out of eating clean this holiday season with their chef-crafted, nutritionist-approved recipes featuring fresh ingredients and nothing artificial. And you know what? You don't have to lose track of your healthy eating habits during the holidays. Every Green Chef customer gets a free session with their registered dietitians who will walk you through how to make clean eating work for you. So sign up for your free session and start on the road towards better health today. And the deal I want to tell you about, visit greenchef.com/DTT250 and use the code DTT250 for $250 off your order. So that's greenchef.com/DTT250 and use the code DTT250 for $250 off your order.
My crush is something I'm very excited about. You know, I love good food. And my friend Sheila came over the other day, and she actually has a restaurant called the Victory Pie Company. And she's known for her pies, made all these top lists for her pies and her cinnamon rolls here in Houston. I think her cinnamon rolls were named #1.
Wow.
In the city. Yes, but she lives on one side. Houston's massive. She lives on one side. I live inside, close to downtown. She lives actually in Magnolia, or her restaurant's in Magnolia, which is actually north of Houston. So we don't get to see each other that often. Anyway, she brought me one of her pies, and it was so delicious. It was a key lime pie, and it was gluten-free. So she's got all these fabulous pies, a lot of gluten-free ones. But the thing that blew me away is that she ships these nationwide.
Oh, good for her.
Yes, so I'm just so excited. When I heard that, I thought, oh my goodness, everyone is going to want to know about these pies. So they're fabulous. She can ship them to you. And when I told her that I was going to mention them because it was just that delicious, she gave me a discount code for anybody that wants to buy a pie. And our code is DTT, which is often our code with companies. So the DTT is our code. And if you buy 2 pies going to the same location, the same address, she'll give you half off of the shipping. So that's it's a really good deal, and the pies are amazing. They're not just like they're not like a pie you would buy at the grocery store. I mean, these are luxury. These are gourmet pies. I mean, she told me when she sells a blueberry pie, she didn't go buy frozen blueberries at the grocery store. She goes to the blueberry farm and picks them herself. So it's victorypiecompany.com, and the code is DTT.
Sheila, thank you so much. This is wonderful. And you know what I'm thinking? My father is absolutely the hardest person to buy anything for. This might be part of his Father's Day gift.
Okay.
Sending 2 pies.
Hopefully he's not listening.
No, he doesn't listen, I don't think. My mom listens, but she'll be glad to know I figured something out. Okay, my crush I'm super excited about too, and it isn't food and it isn't decor. It's something to wear because you know what? We're all going to go out again, and Nita's already had a friend over or seen a friend, so maybe other people have too.
We ate outside.
I'm sure you were very careful eating that pie. I love this jumpsuit. Now, I'm always hesitant to buy a jumpsuit because it's hard to pee when you have a jumpsuit on. I'm just going to say. But this jumpsuit from Garnet Hill is fantastic. It's the kimono sleeved jumpsuit. It is made of this tencel, Tencel fabric that is really eco-friendly. And I was reading the tag on it, and it's like, there's something so fabulous about it as far as the environment. It is also so soft and it drapes so beautifully. And it has this heft to it, but not heft where you'd be hot. It's fantastic. So anyway, gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. I've worn it a couple of times and it is really comfortable and it makes you feel great to have it on. Like you could sleep in this, but you should also go to a cocktail party in it.
Wow.
You could wear flip-flops with it, or you could wear heels if you ever decide to do that again. I will say to you, maybe size down. I got the small and I probably should have gotten the extra small. It's kind of loose on the top. So think about that. Read the size chart and read the reviews, but it is dynamite. It's $139. I'm sorry I don't have any deals for you, but it's well worth it. They might be having a sale. They often have sales.
Sometimes you just have to pay a little bit more for something really special.
But I think this is something I know for me. I will have it in my closet, and this will be a go-to. I'm almost just surprised that I didn't get it in the black as well. I kind of almost did that because I got it in the Lagoon, which is a really beautiful sort of greeny blue.
Oh, it sounds heavenly.
Yeah, it's really pretty, Anita. It's really nice. So everybody should check that out. We'll have the link to that in the show notes too. So do we have an Instagram today?
We do. It's from Jo Rogers. So that's JO _Rogers, RODGERS. She's a journalist in London and East Sussex. And she's writes about, I guess, some of her travels around the UK. So she recently wrote an article about her train trip on the Royal Scotsman in the Milieu magazine, which is one of our favorite magazines. So check it out. She has beautiful photography of her travels around the UK. There's also beautiful photos of London. There's interiors. There's outdoor photos. But if you love Britain, you'll love her feed.
Oh, she's great. And she's darling. And I think she had a baby like a year or two ago. And she's got tons of flowers. And I don't know if they left their London home and permanently moved to the country, but there's definitely a country house involved too. Mm-hmm. And I think she's written for, could be House and Garden, could be, another decor magazine in Britain, but she's definitely a writer that is in the circles that, we would love to enjoy, any of those publications. So yeah, I've followed her for many years. Love it.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So be sure and check her out. Jo, JO _RODGERS on Instagram. And thanks so much for hanging out with us. And remember, we're here to inspire you to create a beautiful home. Until next time.
Want to talk to us? Well, we really want to talk to you. So let's schedule a design consult. Anita and I are here to give you individualized, actionable advice on how to create the beautiful home you want and deserve. It's so easy to schedule a design consult with us. Simply click the link in the show notes or head to decoratingtipsandtricks.com/consult. When we talk to you on the scheduled time, we will be ready with so many great tips, advice, and yes, tricks. So sign up today for a design consult with Anita and I. We can't wait to talk to you.